3 straight shutouts, and in not one of them has the same guy gotten the next start. And here the Wild break the streak. Kaprizov deflects it through the legs of Wedgwood. It's 200 in the career of Kirill Kaprizov. Middleton back to pick it up for Minnesota. Trenyon across for Hartman. Kelly sprawls. Hartman the wraparound. They score! Number 201 for Kaprizov. His second of the night, and Minnesota leads it 2-1. It's Cale Makar against Volstad. Saved by Volstad, and it's a win for the Wild. They stop the 10-game win streak of the best team in the NHL. It's 7 in a row for Minnesota.
Welcome back to Worst Seats in the House. Mike Russo, Anthony LaPanta, and those clips courtesy of FanDuel North and Jacob Berger. And Anthony, you finally made it. I don't know if you would call Jacob Berger a parody. Like, it's not a parody of you. But if everybody saw on Instagram and I put it on X the other day, Jacob Berger, who is very talented, very, very well-known content creator on Instagram, creates these videos of play-by-play guys and women and some of their goal calls and touchdown calls and home run calls, and does these funny little mimics. And I've always wondered when he was going to finally hit you, and he did with your 2 of your goal calls against the Colorado Avalanche, and then the save on Cale Makar that got Volstad the W in the shootout. And do you feel honored?
Well, I have to say that I wasn't familiar with the guy
Shocking.
until somebody forwarded it to me. And when I saw it, it made me laugh. I sent it to Margot and told her to take a look at it. And it is funny. It made me chuckle. I thought, yeah, you must have been hanging out in our booth. That's exactly what it looks like in our booth.
And it was funny because some people don't, or that aren't familiar with him, like your brother Stev, like thought that he was like making fun of you. And I had to point out on our little group message that he's not just some random, person on social media that was taking a shot at you. That to me, it's like a thing of respect. Like I always find them funny. I find those people, essentially what he's doing is lip syncing your calls, but the way that he does it, it's perfect. The audio is synced up perfectly, but he's doing these funny mimics. And I thought what was perfect was Alex Stalock couldn't get a word in.
Well, you got to remember that this is
during the call.
This is during the call. Al does plenty of talking on the broadcast, but I thought it was really funny, and I'll have to go check them out and see what some of the other ones look like.
Some of them are really good.
It's and even if it was a jab at me, I'm never offended by that kind of stuff. I think fans are great, and even if they disagree with you, they're still great. But I found the guy really funny. Yeah, no, it was really well done.
So again, this is Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio, live from the LaPanta household. And our next live show is December 15th at Tuttle's at 7 p.m. And your daughter Ariana and boyfriend Landon, they live right by there, so there's no excuse. They have to come to that show.
Well, they came to this show because they're hanging out with Stanley, which was a part of our Thanksgiving week at the LaPantas, which all we needed was you to be here to point at some stuff, because
I would have immediately pointed and said he's sick.
Well, we first had an oven break.
Yeah.
So we had to have an oven repairman come and take care of that. I think he was here the Monday of Thanksgiving week. On Monday night, our refrigerator broke, had to be replaced. So we ordered that, had a new one delivered on Wednesday. Again, all we would needed is you to be here to point at it, and it then magically would have been fixed. And then Thursday night, right as our dinner was winding up, Stanley all of a sudden was not right, losing his balance, disoriented. So Ariana and I ended Thanksgiving night in the pet emergency room hospital for a couple hours at about 10 o'clock at night to find out, had some nerve issue or whatever. But bottom line is, so Thanksgiving week here was eventful, a little bit, let's say, put a pretty good dent in the pocketbook over a span of about 3 days, but happy to report that Stanley's recovering well. And so, yes, that means Ariana and Landon should be at Tuttle's.
It is truly amazing the amount of money that you have to spend on things. It's you never have like a small expense. It's always broken
and
car.
They're always at one time.
iPhones thrown in lakes.
Right.
I don't know who did that, Ariana. And on that same day, Gianni just happened to hit the neighbor's car,
and AJ left a computer on a table and got stolen all in the same week. Yeah, they do kind of tend to come in bunches. And we had, the week before, when we thought like, okay, let's get the house ready for the holidays. Kids are all coming back. So Margot had decided it would be a perfect time to revamp the bedrooms to make them more compatible to 4 kids with significant others all coming home at the same time. So the week before I'd spent some cash, but also a number of hours dismantling beds, reassembling beds, taking down ceiling fans and lights, putting in new ceiling fans and lights, redecorating these bedrooms, all of this. And that was all done the week before. Had we known that the next week we were going to have to redo half the kitchen, we maybe would have held off on the bedroom projects.
Well, my bone to pick with you is, and Margot and I always talk about how, which is ironic because you are a play-by-play guy for a living, that you're the least communicative person maybe in history. You just forget to say very important things. And other than your immediate family, nobody is a bigger fan of Stanley than me. And yet I walk in here and you, for the first time, tell me that Stanley had this emergency on Thanksgiving night. So I was very, very upset.
Well, you took the day off on Friday, so I didn't see you on Friday.
That's true.
And if you had been there, I probably would have told you the story. And then by last night, I was on to dealing with other things.
You forgot about Stanley.
Well, the other thing, so then on, I think it was Saturday, maybe. Well, actually, I think it might have been Friday. Margot texted me, and I was at the point now where every time my phone lit up with something from home, it was not going to be good news. And as I was getting ready for the game on Friday, Margot, can you call ASAP? I was like, what in the world could possibly have gone wrong now? Now, I did just rewire 4 light fixtures upstairs. So immediately I'm thinking, oh boy, there were a couple extra wires hanging around that I just kind of threw up in the ceiling, perhaps that. She says, well, the doorbell thing is buzzing nonstop. What can I do to make it stop? So I spent about 45 minutes on a FaceTime with her. Go down to the fuse box. We're going to shut this off. Now we're going to disconnect this wire. We're going to disconnect this wire. Now you got to turn it back on. Go see if the sound is off and talk her through all that. And mixed into all this was, as Stanley was immobile, I was carrying him out the front door to take him outside to go to the bathroom and stepped on an icy patch on our sidewalk and fell flat on my back because I was holding Stanley, so I didn't want to brace myself. So I was a little banged up as well. So it hasn't been a great weekend for stuff away from the rink around the LaPanta house.
And by the way, I just got a notification that there's a snow emergency in Minneapolis tonight. So apparently we're getting another storm. Speaking of which, by the way, shout out to MnDOT. I know that it's like fashionable for everybody always to rip on MnDOT, maybe because once 16, 17 years ago, they weren't prepared for that ice storm that we had during the Wild game and took a little, I remember skating home after that game. But I just can't believe that, so last night I'm leaving the Wild game at 12:30 in the morning, and the roads are obviously still really bad because it's still kind of snowing out. I make it home perfectly safe. And then I come here just now, and you'd never know there was any other than the sides of the streets. You'd never know, the highways are just perfect. So
they do a great job with that. And I saw them out last night because I went out to shovel the driveway last night when I got home, and they came by with the plow while I was shoveling. And then by this morning, when it had snowed again, so I went out to shovel again, they had come by a second time already and plowed again.
See, if I was here earlier, I would have pointed to the snow and told you that
gone,
they
right?
needed.
You know what why your driveway's slippery? It's the snow that's on it. But I always think what I hear people complain about MnDOT more is like road construction. I've never heard, because all I would tell people is go wander during the hockey season in any other city.
100%.
Literally any other city. The only one I'd say that we've been in during a blizzard that rivaled it was Buffalo one time, where it snowed like for a day. And I went out walking up that, whatever that street is that runs along the trolley line in Buffalo. And the next morning, it was all plowed and ready to go, and we never had a problem getting out with flights. But we've been snowed in Manhattan. We've been in Vancouver one time. It snowed. It was slushy for 4 days while we were there. And people were out. They shovel their own little 4 feet in front of their door. Then you'd go past the next 4 businesses that hadn't shoveled yet. They don't have anybody that in the city that comes out and does it.
Yeah.
We were in Dallas one time during a sleet storm, and the whole city shut down.
I was in Atlanta, I remember in 2014 when my stepfather passed away, and we had that ice storm there that shut down the city. Like cars were literally just abandoning everywhere. We had to walk after my stepfather passed away. My mom and I, like at 2 miles, just left her car on the side of the road and basically ice skated to my brothers.
Even some of these Canadian cities, like we've been up in Edmonton and Calgary, and it's like they just wait for it to go away. They throw some in Edmonton, they throw sand on it. In Calgary, they throw salt, and they just wait for it to go away.
Yeah.
You walk down the sidewalks, and you're walking on a really uneven, packed down snow, and I think they just say, well, it's wintertime in Canada, so figure it out.
Yeah. So here's the. Sorry, I just got a weird, unsettling text. So anyway, back on track. The Minnesota Wild. So where do we start here? 11-1-2 in the month of November. They're currently on an 11-game point streak, 9-0-2, 7-0-1, obviously in their last 8 because they didn't complete the shootout win yesterday against the Buffalo Sabres. But Friday, let's start with that. The Colorado Avalanche come to town, just in an unbelievably entertaining hockey game. Those first 8-9 minutes of the game, both teams going toe to toe, end to end. Third period, obviously, they start double shifting the McKinnon line, and it just felt like they were on the ice every other shift. Eventually tie the game, force overtime, goes to a shootout, and the Wild win the game. But talk about a measuring stick game, a barometer game. As you said on the previous podcast, it had that feel going into it, and the Wild lived up to it.
I thought that game was one of the most entertaining regular season games that we've seen maybe in the 14 years I've been calling games. And part of it was because of the way the two teams were playing. Two hottest teams in the league coming in. Colorado had won 10 in a row, Minnesota 6 in a row. I thought it was a game that felt like it had a little bit of legitimacy meter on it for this Wild hot streak. Not that if they had lost the game, it would have just diminished what they've done, because no one game should do that. And there have been some other good ones on this trip. I mean, remember that during this win streak, they had won in Winnipeg, a team that had beaten them 9 in a row. They had beaten Vegas, a team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. Had beaten Carolina, one of the best teams in the East. Had won at Chicago, a team that has been overachieving and much improved this year. But this one was different because this is the best team in the NHL, a historically good team. I don't know if you saw the note we had, but I went back and looked. The last time a team made it to the end of November with one regulation loss, it was the 79-80 Philadelphia Flyers. So this is something, this hasn't happened in 45 years. And the Wild didn't beat them in regulation, but they still beat them. So we're talking about a team that's off to one of the best starts that we've seen in half a century. And the Wild took them down in a game where they just played really well. It was a evenly played game. Shots were even, chances were even. It was a game where it wasn't a goaltender stood on his head and made 70 saves to keep you in it. It was just, you went toe to toe with this team. You matched them in every phase of the game and you beat them.
Yeah. The one thing I'll remember about those 79-80 Flyers, even though I was about 5 years old, is that they went 35 games without a regulation loss, but they lost to my Islanders. So there you go.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing. I remember that stretch because I was 12 at the time, but it was and back in those days, you read the paper to find out what happened last night. And I remember getting to the point where I was like, I got to check the paper tomorrow, see if Philadelphia finally lost.
Yep.
But in fact, I had somebody today that sent me a tweet or posted a tweet and tagged me in it saying that it was something like it was a decent stretch, but a terrible way to end it. I was like, well, it's not terrible. Terrible would have been if they showed up yesterday, got beat 8-1 by a terrible hockey team. Number one, everybody loses in the NHL, and they said, look what Colorado did the next day. Yeah. Well, yes.
Even John Hines actually pointed that out.
Yeah, and Colorado right now they're better than the Minnesota Wild. Wild beat them, but we're talking about a team that has one loss and is doing something that hasn't been done in 45 years. Yep. The Wild are not that.
Could you imagine if the Avalanche actually, of those, say, 6 overtime shootout losses, just won 3 of them? Look at what their record would be.
Right. But I'm just saying that the Sabres are 10-11-4. Yep. It isn't like they're 2-23. Yep. They win games. Yep. And the Wild still got a point.
Well, somebody else, it's amazing just the lack. The one thing I will give everybody is that the Buffalo Sabres, for whatever reason, the last 17, 18 games play the Wild really well. It's about 500.
We talked about it yesterday. Actually, Buffalo's won 10 out of 18.
Yep.
And 14 of the 18 have been decided by 1 goal. They're always tight games. It's just the way it is.
And which, funny enough, about 10, 12 years ago, remember, it was always the Buffalo Sabres coming to town that turned the Wild season around. They'd always have a huge win in January against them. But what I don't get with fans is like this fallacy. Like somebody tweeted me last night that it's been the same thing, Hines and Evison, that the Wild can't beat doormats. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years, the Wild are making the playoffs or winning because all they do are beat the bad teams and can't beat the teams ahead of them. In the regular season.
I mean, if the Wild lose to Colorado the day before, you'll hear that, well, yeah, they can't beat 6 in a row, but they can't beat the best team.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at Buffalo. I had looked at it yesterday. They've got wins this year. They've beaten Carolina. They've beaten Washington. Yeah. They've beaten Detroit. These are all the teams that are at the top.
They're arguably the worst team in the league. They're 7th in the league in expected goals. The night before they had 87 shot attempts. They just somehow don't score. The Buffalo Sabres this year, and I know that, look, they are not the same team that have missed the playoffs 14 years in a row. What their problems have been this year, I was talking to Lindy Ruff about it before yesterday's game. They just can't get that big goal in a game, or they make that 1 or 2 catastrophic mistakes in a game. And last night, that first period was a good example of that, where they played decent enough, but then they're down 2-1 because they made a couple bad, like they somehow leave Kaprizov at the back door.
And when they've made mistakes, they haven't had goaltending to bail them out.
Where last night, Colton Ellis was great.
He was great. I thought early he looked like he could give up 7, and then all of a sudden he was good the rest of the way. And Buffalo's better. Minnesota's better than Buffalo. Mm-hmm. If they played them 10 times, the Wild are going to win more often than they don't. But last night, it was a good game. Buffalo found a way to win in a shootout. And let's not forget, the only reason the game goes into the extra session is an absolute fluky goal off the glove of Matt Zuccarello.
Right.
I mean, that's the tying goal. It isn't like Buffalo made 15 highlight reel plays. It wasn't like the Wild were hanging on for dear life. A puck got thrown in by their own player to tie the game and send it into the extra session.
By the way, just to give one shout out to Zuccarello, and not to make an excuse for the play, but it starts because he's covering up for Brodin, who took a tumble. But you know how I said on last week's podcast, what I love about Zuki is, if he almost wants to talk to you after losses, talk about accountability last night. Didn't dodge the media. First guy we talked to in the locker room, right after he talked to Gorg on TV. He knew he had a mishap in the game, and he faced the music, which is what you want leaders to do.
And that's always been the case with him.
Yep.
And
he'd much rather talk after a loss than a win. It's hilarious.
And we talked to him after the win when he made his debut on the island, and he almost begrudgingly came out to talk because
he didn't talk to the written media that night.
Yeah. That was because I had asked him all the pertinent questions already. But
I heard the actual story in the locker room was he's like, "I'll do TV or but not both." And essentially they said, "All right, you're talking to LaPanta," and then Joe Smith was left like, "Whoa, what do you mean? I'm not getting him?"
Yeah. So. No, but we talked about it before, and before this hot streak started, and when there was angst and panic, and every time we talked about it, I just kept saying, wait, you have to wait till Zuccarello comes back and then judge this team, because the impact he has on the lineup, number one, it solidifies the first line. It moves Johansson to the second line. It moves Tarasenko down in the lineup, Foligno down in the lineup, whoever else was that they were trying to fit into the top six. It makes every line better. But maybe even bigger than that is the impact he has around the team, the energy, the spunk, the spirit, the tenacity, all of those things. This is a team that isn't brimming with guys that bring that. They've got a few, and he's one of them. And it just so happened that when a big chunk of the time he was out, Zach Bogosian was also out. He's a guy that brings some of that. They missed his presence around the team. Just even the smart aleck comments at the morning skate and on the bus. It's all of that.
Were you with us in Pittsburgh the other day when he was walking by while I was interviewing Foligno, and he just starts chirping me because he's like, "Oh, are you coming on the road finally?" Because he knew that I had only been to like 2 road games all season. So I didn't see that. I mean, that's what he is. I mean, he kind of, even with the media,
but he just brings that energy around the team, and he lightens it for everybody, but also it brings some swagger to everything that's happening. And I don't think you can overstate what his impact has been since his return on this team, and that they have a lot. 9-0-2 now in his 11 games.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's both on the ice and off the ice.
100%. I mean, you saw Foligno in that first when he gave the hero of the game hat away, I think on Long Island, and he made a joke about the fact that Kaprizov was finally smiling again. So there you go too. Kaprizov, 11 goals in those 12 games, I believe. He has 6 during these 7 games, as Phil's going nuts.
He's on lookout duty, and he has to do it alone because Stanley, while recovering, is still not up for being his assistant.
Yeah, I know. Stanley's just sitting there while you're getting robbed. All right, we'll be right back on Worst Seats in the House. As you navigate the holiday season, think of how many ways water affects your home. Cooking for the holidays? Well, you want clean, purified, worry-free water right from the faucet. If you have a full house, you want shiny fixtures and sparkling showers. This is why you want a Connecticut water treatment system from Aquarius Home Services. Connecticut removes over 99% of contaminants from your water, and there will be no white, crusty scale buildup from hard water anywhere. You can enjoy spotless dishes, softer laundry, a cleaner home. A Connecticut water treatment system is the way to go. I know this from personal experience. I've had it for years and absolutely love it. And now through the holidays, enjoy up to 25% off a Connecticut whole home water treatment system from Aquarius Home Services. Worry-free water all starts with a free water analysis. So go to them right now. I just had one recently. They come every year to change my filters, work on my water softener system. It's absolutely awesome. Schedule your free water analysis today at AquariusHomeservices.com, and don't forget to mention that Russo sent you. Aquarius Home Services, earning the right to be recommended. Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt. That's onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today.
Hey, Rosie here for Stretch Labs. I've been talking about them for months now, and it's part of my regular exercise routine. They're located throughout the Twin Cities, and no matter who you sign up for, they have great stretch practitioners that will work with you. They are great at stretching out your hips, your back, your neck, whatever might be aching you, but more importantly, being proactive about your overall health. They understand how your body works and what you need, no matter what your age, really no matter what the shape you're in, but understand how important stretching is. Black Friday right now will offer the best pricing on bundle packages of stretches. Get anywhere from 3 to 20 sessions at a discounted rate. Hey, it also makes a great gift. And for Talk North listeners, they will have access to Black Friday pricing for all of November. So check them out for yourself. Stretch Labs throughout the Twin City area.
Hey, this is Randy Shaver. Along with Kevin Gorg, we host the show Fantasy Huddle on Talk North. Each week, we're going to break down the matchups for the NFL season and try to give you the best chance to win your fantasy football games each and every week. Join us for Fantasy Huddle on Talk North.
Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta, back to you on Worst Seats in the House. Our next live show is December 15th at 7 p.m. at Tuttle's. let's talk
Ariana,
about.
do you have that written down?
Yeah, put it on your calendar. Oh, I love how you sent Landon to deal with Phil.
Yeah.
So anyway, Landon's doing just a horseshit. Oh, now I got a text Davide.
Good night.
All right, just grab him, Landon. My God, just like watching him bark. All right,
Landon, you just made him cuss on a podcast.
all right. I'll send Davide a text here to tell him. Although I think that we should keep it in. It's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
Yeah, kids have heard this stuff.
Enough, Davide. Leave it alone.
Yeah, there you go.
Russo, he should stand up for what he says. Believe in what you say.
I think they bleep it out because they know that if they start allowing it, that I'm just going to be dropping swear words
It'll
left
be
and
setting
right.
a bad precedent.
All right. Where are we going with this? Do I want to start with goaltending, Boldy? Let's go with Eriksson Ek. And I want to talk to you about Spurgeon and Middleton too. But by the way, as Jake Middleton sent me a text last night, he's going to tell you right now that jinxes are real.
He doesn't have enough teeth to have that opinion.
He had a very big opinion after the game about me jinxing the two of them. All right. So, Eriksson Ek, you put together some stats the other day that I swiped for our insider in Monday's Athletic about just what he has done in terms of expected goals percentage for the Stars lately. And everything about him has been tremendous. His faceoffs are 53.2% this month. But the way that he continues to shut down opposing players, even how many great defensive plays in overtime did he make last night? It was terrific.
He's been unbelievable. And I think the key with it, though, is that line has also scored. Mm-hmm. Matt Boldy's the hottest goal scorer in the league outside of Jason Robertson over this stretch. If you go back, I think it's 12 games. He's got 9 goals, and Robertson's the only player in the league that has more.
Yep.
But you look at the players that they've gone up against.
Although Hagel's up there now.
Well, I think he's tied with He was tied with Hagel and McKinnon after yesterday afternoon's games, but then he scored. So he should be back ahead of him by 1. But when you look at who they've faced in the last, let's say, 9 games, they've faced maybe the best 3 young stars in the league, and Carlson, Celebrini, and Bedard. Faced 3 of the best veteran centermen in the league, in Crosby, Eichel, and McKinnon. And the only one of those guys that's been better than 50-50 in terms of expected goals for against Eriksson Ek is McKinnon at 51%. And even in that game, I asked John Hines Saturday about the way he felt X line played against McKinnon's line on Saturday or on Friday. And he said, you could see them trying to get away from it by putting him back out there after one shift off. And you could see him looking over toward our bench, like, don't tell me he's coming over the boards again. And I got another shift against that guy. And we've heard other guys talk about that it's just, they know they're in for a long night from the start of the game when they know that each and every shift they're going to have to go up against this guy. And he plays such an honest game, a high intensity game, a responsible game. And each and every shift, those guys have to work for every inch. And you look at some of the other numbers. I mean, it was Leo Carlson was at like 25%. Macklin Celebrini was at 3% expected goals in the game against him. Crosby was around 30. It isn't like it's close. They're dominating these guys when they go up against them. It'll be really interesting now when you look ahead at a road trip, because the Wild have done a good job against them over the years. As they've played the Stars in Edmonton about as well as anybody has. Part of it's been X-line, part of it's been Brodin skating. But the Oilers have tended to go McDavid and Draisaitl separately against Minnesota to force the hand. I'm sure Hines, if they are apart, will just say, I don't care, I'll get back against either one of them. But you're going to see some high-scoring, top-heavy lines on this trip. And we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if those guys have as much success shutting them down. Yeah,
obviously, Marcus Foligno not being in the lineup hurts, too, because the one good thing about the road trip that the Wild were just on is that they had multiple, especially when Nico Sturm came out, multiple lines that if you couldn't get the matchup that you wanted with Eriksson Ek, at least you had Nico Sturm. I did want to ask you about Colorado and look, the Wild, they are going to have to get some secondary scoring at some point. Right now, 32 of the 74 goals, 43% are from Kaprizov and Boldy. But the other night, the fact that they had to go McKinnon every other shift, it felt like they're a team, and Chris McFarland's going to do that at some point, make some sort of trade to add somebody. And Brock Nelson's playing much better. Obviously, we haven't seen the best of Landeskog, but it does feel like right now they are going to have to add some scoring on that Colorado team, which is tough to say that a team that has any weaknesses when you have one regulation loss.
Yeah, and I think Landeskog is headed in the right direction. I think we're just seeing him start to get back to his game. I thought he was terrific against Minnesota. That's a part of the reason Nelson's game is ramped up. They're missing Val Nichushkin. That's a key piece for them in the top six. And, Victor Olofsson is a guy that I think can provide a little down in the lineup scoring. But it's the same spot they were in last year when they went out and got Coyle, got Nelson to try to get deeper for the playoff run. And it's just hard that you can't keep all those guys when you do that because of the salary cap. Minnesota, I'd say, is in a similar spot where add Marco Rossi back to the lineup, and now all of a sudden maybe your third line has somebody when everybody's healthy, like Urov, like a Tarasenko, a Hartman or Foligno. And I don't think it's as big a concern at that point when everybody's healthy. Right now, yes, they're getting all their scoring from those two stars, but even that is on two different lines for the most part. They've had a fourth line that it could play for a long time without a goal because of injury. I mean, those guys, I've actually liked Tyler Pitlick's game lately. Liam Ogren, I thought, was as visible in Saturday's game as he's been in any game all season. But Jones doesn't have a point yet this year. Pitlick doesn't have a point. Ogren doesn't have a point. I mean, but those guys have been thrust into more minutes and a bigger role than you would have expected if everybody's healthy.
Tyler Pitlick, by the way, was placed on waivers on Sunday. When he clears Monday, assuming he clears, he'll most likely stay with the Wild. They just did that to essentially reset his clock, give them flexibility if they need to make a roster move on the road trip or if Rossi's close. We'll find out at practice on Monday if Rossi can skate. God, you said something. Oh, Tarasenko, he's become a lightning rod of criticism, because the team was 7-0 without him. And then he comes back, they lost. People are ripping on John Hines for using him in the shootout. He does have 17 career shootout goals. And it's so funny. I asked somebody on Twitter, I'm like, who would you have used in that situation? Because again, it's not like international hockey where you can go with Oshie and Zegers. You got to use everybody in your 18 before you can start over. And they had already used Zuccarello, Kaprizov, and Boldy. And then this person's like, well, Johansson. And I'm just like, all right, so now Johansson's become now the guy that everybody wants in every situation, not Vladimir Tarasenko, a former star goal scorer in the league. The one thing I'll just remind people is John Hines knows better than everybody. He watches these guys in practice. He does penalty shot contests in practice. We saw him in the score breakaway after breakaway in training camp and in practices and scrimmages. But now suddenly, because Vladimir Tarasenko came back in the lineup and didn't score in that situation, it was the stupidest move ever.
Right.
But anyway, but he has become, a lightning rod because analytically, every time he's in the lineup on whatever line he's on, it seems to sink that line.
Yeah, and part of it has been that I think part of it's his responsibility, no question about it. Early in the season, he didn't look like he was on top of his game. I know the Wild staff downplayed that and said, he's doing, and John Hines right at the top. He was like, hey, look, his game's not as far off as it might appear. He's been okay in his own zone. And some things like that. But the second line's night and day better with Marcus Johansson playing there compared to him. This game back, he's all of a sudden he's playing with new line mates. Give it a couple games and see. But I also think this it's not a given spot. It's not if it continues, I think the Wild are going to have to look at, all right, well, what are our other options? As far as the shootout goes, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to talk to John after the game about the shootout. This is the first time we've seen a shootout get to 4 rounds, I think, this year, if I remember right.
Definitely.
So I don't know who the other guys would be. We've only seen those guys. I don't think that Ryan Hartman has had a ton of shootout experience. I don't really remember Eriksson Ek having much success in shootouts himself. Rossi would be the obvious next guy if he was healthy and playing. But
even like a Hinostroza.
Possibly, right.
I mean, we've seen him scoring breakaways and things like that. It is the thing with that is so different with the Minnesota Wild than yesteryear, and it's probably like this with every team. And part of it's because they employ Andy Ness, who skates these guys on their own, and part of it's because of this condensed schedule. You can't ever practice, but it is amazing to me the number of players we've seen on the Minnesota Wild that don't even get a practice and are just thrown back into the lineup. And Vladimir Tarasenko, after missing 7 games, I was stunned to see him activated and just thrown in. And, like, to me, why not wait 1 game, go with your regular lineup, practice him Monday, and then you play him in Edmonton? I just, what is the benefit of playing him without 1 single practice yesterday?
Well, but let's keep in mind who he replaced in the lineup. I mean, he was in the lineup. Ben Jones was out. It isn't like he came into the lineup and he took Marcus Johansson out. A little bit, but that line's already jumbled a bit with Foligno out of the lineup. So you were mixing and matching a little bit in the bottom 6 anyway, still trying to figure out where Nico Sturm's going to fit best. And I didn't think it was as disruptive as others might think. I mean, you're replacing Jones or Pitlick in your lineup right now. It isn't like you're replacing a guy who's been a go-to. It's not like you're replacing Johansson or even a Hartman or somebody like that, Sturm or Trenyan. I mean, you're replacing guys who are here as injury replacements. Yeah. And where you put them, the third line, fourth line, I don't think it matters all that much in terms of, whichever guys were going are the guys that Hines is going to ride with more minutes anyway. And I think Tarasenko was close. I think he was close to being ready to come back on Friday. And they just figured, let's have Hartman come back Friday, give Tarasenko 1 more day, and then see what he's got on Saturday. But now you go on this trip, and there's not a lot of practice here either. So it's morning skates and treat and train kind of days at hotels, which are still valuable, workouts and all that kind of stuff. But it's just not, you just don't have the opportunity to get on the ice and practice as easily as you once did.
Middleton and Spurgeon hadn't been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal in 15 straight games. 14. Yesterday was their 14th together since they were put back together as a pair. It was 225 plus minutes for Spurgeon at 5-on-5. Middleton was 203, I think. I put the numbers in my thing. It was essentially 11-0 for Middleton since October 28th and 10-0 for Spurgeon in terms of goals for versus against 5-on-5. Then they give up the goal on the first period yesterday. Not their fault, obviously. I didn't think at all. It was just a really bad rebound, a turnover in the offensive zone by Danila, and then it goes off the guy. But then after the game, I asked Middleton about it. He answered the question, about how well the two of them have been playing. And then about 5 minutes after I get back upstairs, I get a text from Middleton informing me that somebody told him that I tweeted out the numbers and that I jinxed him. And so again, I know that you think that jinxes aren't real, but if the players are the ones thinking this in their head, doesn't that technically jinx? Because now you're putting it in their head.
So we've had the graphic in our game file for 5 games.
They don't see your game file
in November. We've put the graphic on the screen. We've talked about it on the broadcast.
Yeah, but people don't watch the broadcast. They pay attention to my Twitter account.
Right. And so if Middleton was sitting next to you in the press box and you would turn to him and said it, even then I'd say, I doubt highly.
I did let Spurgeon know this in Chicago.
Right. But I'm saying even then I would doubt very highly that your words would impact what he does on the ice. But in this case, they're both playing. Neither one of them has their phone. They haven't seen your Twitter feed. I know it'll be a bruise to your ego that they're not among the.
Let me promise you that somebody that he's referring to had to be Spurgeon because I tweeted it during the day.
I thought you said you tweeted it right before it happened.
I tweeted it during the day about Spurgeon.
So then if the jinx was real, it would have happened on the first shift.
It happened on their third shift.
But we've talked about this for 3 games in a row, and nobody gave up a goal at that point. It's like when people tell me that, you jinxed a penalty kill by saying they were 10 for 10. Well, I said they were 8 for 8. I said they were 9 for 9. I said they were 10 for 10. If it was a jinx, it would have happened when they were 8 for 8.
You were talking about shutouts the other day, and it ended right the second that
I did. That was good. I was talking about the shutout streak for Colorado. That was good.
By the way, Margot, do we want to do our or will you come on for one thing? Because I had a good one before in the first segment. I pointed out to Anthony about how you and I was talking about how he just doesn't communicate, and how ironic that is for a play-by-play guy, and that somehow, since I'm the most loving person to Stanley until I got here today, he had not told me that Stanley was sick. Like somehow the last 3 days didn't point out that my favorite dog was taken to the hospital.
Yeah, it was bad.
And all we would have needed is Russo to come over and point at him and say, you know what's wrong? He's not feeling well. And bang, he'd have been fixed.
100% would have been the first person to notice. All right. So listen, goaltending, Wallstedt and Gustafsson, just unreal. Gustafsson in the month of November, 967 save percentage. Wallstedt, Gustafsson in the month of November, 923 save percentage. Just the two of them have been, terrific. Obviously the shootout yesterday, Gus admitted that he was not very happy with himself, losing patience, losing his edges, things like that. But the two of them have been outstanding.
They've been great. And we've talked so much about the team defensive structure. And I do think the team has defended well and competed hard. But what's interesting is if you look at the numbers in November, they're actually 27th in the league in shots against. This is going into Saturday's game, so it could have changed. But they were 27th in shots against. They were 23rd in 5-on-5 high danger chances against per 60. They were 28th in expected goals against per 60, 5-on-5.
Wow.
And yet first in save percentage. And because of that, their penalty kill was fourth best. Their goalie goals against average was second best. And it actually was the same as Colorado's, but a fraction of a point behind at 1.65. It's been goaltending has been the difference. And I do believe that they haven't really had to stand on their heads all that often. There've been a couple games where they really, I thought, played brilliantly and maybe stole a game. But for the most part, I just think they've been good. They've been reliable. They've been solid. But these numbers would tell you they've been way past that. I mean, if you're 28th in the league in expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, but your goalie goals against average is number 2 in the league, that tells you your goaltenders have been terrific.
Absolutely. Although again, like I think that one reason why the shots are up, which is I think what you just said is, or high, near the top of the league still shots against is they do seem to allow shots from the perimeter. Like the one thing that Lindy Ruff was telling me before the game is watching the Wild pre-scouting them is that they pack it in the middle better than most teams and just really keep people from the front of the net.
Yeah, and that's true, but the expected goals against all reflect that. And I think what'll be interesting to watch is having the two guys rotating. I don't know if it's fair to call it a rotation, but they have been going every other one here for a while. And to see if that impacts both of them. Because if you just look at their workload, in October, Gus made 9 starts and Wallstedt made 3. And neither one of them was nearly as sharp as they were in November, where the starts are, I guess with yesterday with Gus, it'll be 8-6, but it was 7-6 going into yesterday. And both of them had much better numbers with a lesser workload for Gus and more regular work for Wallstedt. I don't see why you wouldn't just keep going back and forth between the two of them right now. What was interesting, and we talked about this, I talked about this with Al Stalock on the broadcast on Friday. Avalanche came in riding 3 shutouts in a row, and yet the guy who had the shutout didn't get the next start in any of them.
Yeah, just
and the Wild were in the same spot. Their last 4 shutouts, that guy didn't get the next start. So we were seeing two teams that for years in hockey, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was the second of back-to-backs, the guy wouldn't get the start. But a lot of times, even then, they'd say, how do you not put the guy back in? He had a shutout last night. And in this case, both coaches are, nope, that's the next guy's turn.
John Hines is the trendsetter. Jared Bernard said, I'm copying that.
Following that.
On one of our recent live shows, I think the one at Split Rocks, a woman came up and asked about Wild Olympians, and I was way off on the number that it could be because I'm just thinking of the Swedes and the U.S. Players. But I will. Nico Sturm was already picked for Germany, and then David Spacek and David Juracek have a real good chance for Czechia. Sam Halavai for Slovakia. We'll see just based on their depth of those teams. But what's interesting is, so I was talking to Wallstedt the other day, and I asked him point blank, have you been put into the protocol, the drug testing protocol for the IOC? And he had told me no. But I was talking to somebody else about this, and essentially the way the rule is written, and this would tell you that this means that Wallstedt and maybe even a Marcus Johansson have a chance to be Olympians. We'll see. I think it'll be harder for JoJo. But Wallstedt, the way the other Swedish goalies are playing besides Gustafsson, you would think they would have a shot. So the way the rule reads is that that you had to give originally a list of 30 for drug testing, and then you were able to add a longer list of guys who had to go through the registration and such for the IOC, who would still be eligible to be picked. So essentially, when teams can be picked starting New Year's Eve, that if then you're picked, you can be put into the drug testing list from that point on. So just because Wallstedt doesn't think he has a shot, and he told me he doesn't think he has a shot just based on games played, doesn't mean that he can't necessarily be put in. And, you look at Markstrom and you look at Allmark and you look at Urson, you really think that he might have a shot. I don't know.
I think through just
body of
record and body of work,
yeah.
Markstrom and Allmark, Gustafsson would all
be
ahead of Wallstedt. But if one of those guys were to get banged up, if Wallstedt was to continue what he's doing, let's even say it continues through Christmas, how would you not start to consider that? And at least as your third goalie. But I got to believe if those other guys are healthy, that they're likely to be there just because of their veteran status. And in terms of Johansson, I don't really know exactly how their whole roster is made up, but it would be a long shot. He'd be tempting to throw on the club as
I've seen like projections, and some of the projections don't even have guys like William Eklund. So I just think he would be chosen before JoJo just because he was on the Four Nations team.
And a young star that you want to try to get exposed to this kind of stuff, where, Johansson he'd be a nice depth guy that we'd say, hey, this guy we could throw in a fourth line role if we within the game needed something. He's been such a responsible player.
Well, he's also been great for them in every World Championship he's ever been in, including the most recent one. So,
yes. But I mean, you start to look at the guys that would have to come out. I mean, I'm thinking it would have to be the guys like, Leo Carlsson's a no-brainer, but who's
it's gonna be based on injury.
Yeah, I mean, Victor Arvidsson, Jesper Bratt, those are kind of the guys that maybe be down in your lineup. I would think, and because the top end guys they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, Bratt obviously will be there. I mean, Gus Nyquist, the one guy that's definitely coming out from the Four Nations, and he was not very good there either.
No.
But we'll see how it all works. So Brodin's the interesting one to me because he had such a great Four Nations, but he is not he's playing weird to me. Like even the game in Chicago where he made those two great plays in the third period to create goals. How many times this season have we seen him beaten on foot races? And that never happens. Last night he just falls over.
Last night I don't remember the last time I've seen him fall down.
Yeah.
But he'll be there. And I thought last year was interesting. We had some discussions early in the NHL season last year about whether or not Brodin would make it. And I remember some of the guys sitting at the table, like listing all these defensemen that they take in front of him. And I was like, I don't think I'd take him. I don't think I'd take him. And then all of a sudden you get to the tournament and game one, there he is with Victor Hedman on their number one pair.
Yeah.
And I don't think you go from number one pair to off the roster that quickly. He's going to be on the team, I think, and I wouldn't be at all surprised.
They owe him he went to the freaking World Championships hurt, and then he got more hurt.
Right.
So
I think I'd be surprised if he wasn't still the guy on their top pair when it all starts.
I'll tell you, with this many players that has a chance, including Juracek, Spacek, and Halavai, you just hope that you get out of it healthy. I mean, because I do think the one key, and we saw it at the end of the Four Nations, because remember how Edmonton, McDavid and Draisaitl, they weren't in the Four Nations, but like McDavid looked spent. You look at Detroit, guys like Raymond and Larkin look spent. We saw Eriksson Ek. Like, it just feels like we saw how the Wild struggled coming out of the Four Nations. It just seems like the more players you have there, the more likely, one, obviously injury, but two, fatigue. And I think the teams that don't have a lot of players there are going to have a much better chance to come out of it.
Well, it's a much longer tournament than the Four Nations was.
There's obviously travel.
And you're talking about guys that are going to come back having, the Four Nations, there was a limit to how many games you were going to play.
Yeah.
And this
four
one,
max.
Right, 4 max. This is different.
Yeah.
Like these guys are going to play a lot more hockey, and I think we're already seeing it. And I mentioned this on the broadcast yesterday. The injuries around the league are way up from where they've been, and I don't believe that the condensed schedule is a small part of that. I think you just have guys with less time to recover. You got more back-to-backs, 3 and 4, 4 and 6 kind of stretches in your schedule with travel, and that wears people down.
Yeah. Well, look,
I think coming out of the Olympic break, it's a sprint to the finish from that point. So I think that's why the start of the season this year might have been as or more important than starts any other year, just so that you can cover yourself in case your team's a little slow coming out of that break.
No doubt about that. All right, we'll be right back.
So I want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com. Go there, sign up for their alerts. You only get a couple emails a year, but when you get the email, it'll be about a special event or a sale that's dramatic. I got a lot of stuff when they had a 40% off sale this summer when they were clearing out their summer inventory for fall inventory. It's not a huge store. It's easy to shop. That also means that when it's time for them to clear stuff out, they're going to give you a great deal. Go there, say hello to Scott Dayton, my friend. It's Twill by Scott Dayton in the Edina Galleria. Best men's clothing store in Minnesota. Go check it out.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
There are many reasons to open a smart checking account at Royal Credit Union, including no monthly fees, no minimum balance, and a $250 bonus. Getting your $250 is easy. Open your account by December 9th. Receive 2 payroll direct deposits of $200 or more, and you'll get a $250 bonus. See details and open your account today at rcu.org/getchecking. No minimum balance required to obtain bonus. Offer ends 12/9/25. Insured by NCUA.
Back here, Worst Seats in the House. Michael Russo, Anthony LaPanta. December 15th is our next live show at Tuttle's. Do you want to do Twitter questions? Or you got anything?
Let me see what Vinny's thoughts were. He sent Vinny's thoughts this week because I forgot to get them last week. I don't know. I haven't read them yet. So he says, let's see here. He asked about Tarasenko's line in the last game. Olgren, Hartman, Tarasenko seemed to bring very little, even though Olgren was maybe as visible as he's been. Any lineup changes you would make in the bottom 6 before the next game?
I don't know. I'd probably give Ogren a little more time. I think it would be a bad message just because we are finally seeing him play a little better. But still not consistent enough. Like there's just really good shifts in the midst of not great shifts, if that makes sense.
He hasn't shown, to me, there have been a couple plays where, he got a shot. But you think about what that really means, that you get a shot on goal and you think, that came from Ogren. Well, that was good. Yeah. I mean, he's had 2 shots in, I think, 3 games this year. Other than that, he hasn't had more than 1 in any game. But I mean,
they don't have many options.
No, I agree with you that I thought he was better the last game. Mm-hmm. So I'd maybe go 1 more game with those guys together. I didn't mind Sturm with Trenyon, but I think the bigger question is, if Rossi truly is a possibility to come back on this trip, that bumps Yurov back down into the bottom 6.
And you could put him at wing.
So if Yurov's at a wing, he's probably with Tarasenko and Hartman, and that ends up with a 4th line that's got Sturm and Trenyon. And I'm not sure Ogren is the right 3rd piece to align with those guys on it, but you never know. We'll see.
Yeah. Does he have another?
Another one is he said that Height was reassigned. Were you surprised he didn't get a chance to play over Jones while he was up here?
I think just based on the face-offs, probably not. There's just a lot of trust with Hines there. I would have loved to have seen Haight back in. It's not like he's been lighting it up in Iowa, though. The one thing I'll say, and I did ask, I don't think you were in Chicago, but I asked John Hines about this because Wild fans, and maybe I've ingrained it into them, is that there's just this belief that if a young kid is up here but not playing, it's an absolute calamity and a waste and all that stuff. But there is a value. You can't have them forever being here without going back to Iowa and playing games. But there is a value to being around an NHL team, traveling, practicing with the NHL coaches, that type of stuff.
I agree. I think with Haight, it was more his role in the lineup.
Yeah.
Fourth line, face-off certainly a part of that, but fourth line, I don't know, was the perfect fit. Mm-hmm. His last one is, now we saw Bouillon in overtime, had a turnover that led to a 2-on-0, and he takes
all right,
you on
first
a walk
of all,
back.
I knew
Russo.
that somebody was going to say that. Watch the replay. It wasn't the greatest play by Zeev, but that was a problem from the get-go that they put him in. I don't disagree that he might have gotten on the wrong side of the puck, but that was a turnover was it JoJo or Kaprizov? It was one of the two.
I don't remember. There was a better
but
play
they weren't
to be made.
They weren't on the same page.
No, but there was a better play to be made.
And by the way, and it wasn't now. If Vinny would pay attention, it wasn't now we finally saw him. That was the third game that we've seen him in overtime. So, but I will tell you that there is every part of me, okay, that when Zeev is on the ice now in overtime, I am either begging for him to score or not be the cause of a goal against. And on that breakaway yesterday, I was like sitting there praying. And I am not a praying man, but I was praying to whoever is upstairs that guy did not score that goal, because I knew I wouldn't stop hearing it from the LaPanta household.
You haven't heard it from me. I'm giving you Vinny's
I'm just
thoughts.
telling you that Vinny is inside your brain, like all your poor children.
No, he's not. I think the way they used Zeev in that game is they gave him a shot. It
was the third time we've seen him on the ice in overtime.
Yeah, and one of them was for about 8
exactly.
seconds. But in this case, I just think right now you have guys I count on a lot more. I'm a lot more comfortable with Spurgeon and Faber on the ice. And
but that was only my point. Remember, it was always my point that I just would rather him on the ice than Brodin. Like to me, at least he's going to try to make a play. I have absolutely no problem with Faber and Spurgeon. It was Faber and Spurgeon on the ice. Hey, the one thing I did want to ask you is, isn't it weird to you, or maybe you've talked to John about this, why Zuccarello gets almost, like last night he didn't play in overtime, and his last 3 or 4 overtimes, Zuccarello is getting like the final 30 seconds.
Well, their rotation is to get Kaprizov back on the ice a second time.
Right.
And when he comes back on the second time, then they try to get Kaprizov and Boldy together usually.
Right.
So Zuccarello, it's just kind of the way, depends on how long it takes to get a change.
And part of yesterday's issue was that they had three face-offs, so they had to get Eriksson out there.
Right.
But even on that one, like, why isn't it then on that second rotation where with Eriksson, they put Johansson out a second time? I just would love to see Zuccarello out there in overtime.
Yeah, I think most of the time this season it has been. It's been Kaprizov to start with Eriksson, then you've gone to Boldy with either Rossi or Johansson. Then it's come back to Kaprizov with Zuccarello. But in this case, when they went back to Kaprizov, it was a face-off, so it was Eriksson again. Then they went back to Boldy again, and then it was, I think it was the 5th rotation before Zuccarello came over the boards. But, I think, I remember, and I haven't talked to John about it specifically, Dean used to have like their first 6, here are our first 6 rotations through in overtime. And I think some of it depends on who's on the ice for the other side. And Johansson, I think it's been so, and we don't have to go down the road of what he's brought, because there's no argument now that he's had a great year, but his ability to defend has been so underrated this year. And Hines made a comment just in passing. We were talking about something else yesterday, and he just said, well, because we were talking to him about Zuccarello coming back, And he said, yeah, I mean, everybody on the team always they want to play with Zuki, they want to play with JoJo. And and he just kind of said it in passing, but it triggered me as I was walking away. And I was like, so the guys even see it.
Yeah.
Like they know, like, holy cow, I like playing with this guy. And you can see why when you really think about it. He's always back defensively. He's great carrying the puck into the zone. He brings speed to your line, and he makes everybody better on the ice with him.
No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, like whenever Boldy talks about
I don't think he was great in overtime yesterday either. He tried to split the defense at an awkward time one time that led to the puck getting away. But you're one of the guys who's been begging for let's take a couple more chances.
No, I agree. I think they're trying
to
find the happy medium on how to do this because you're right. I mean, you don't want to lose the puck, but at some point you got to make a play. Right. But the problem is
you got away for 3 minutes doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah,
either.
No doubt. I mean, look, what's really funny about this is like you look at Zuccarello now and Johansson, you can see extensions coming down them, and you just wonder, is this team going to be the same team forever? It's just never changing. JSTU, whatever that means. Oh, I just realized. Anyway, you reported Cairo. Just shut the F. Anyway,
there's not an F in there.
Oh yeah, there isn't. I don't know. It means something. You reported Cairo was a guy,
just
Billy
you.
G.
He's saying, I just want to hear from you, Russo. Just you.
Yes, exactly. There is somebody on X that is like only trust Russo. That's a great Twitter account. You reported Cairo was a guy Billy G was poking around on. Who are some other names you think are calling to keep? I don't want to guess on names, but the one thing I will tell you is I do think the Wild are in on Kiefer Sherwood, and I don't know. Like, here's the thing: if I were the Wild, and you could tell me what you think of Sherwood, I mean, look, he definitely screams to me to be a Billy G type player. Is that you only have so many trades you can make. You only have so many assets you could trade. It looks like now the Wild have put themselves in a position at some point to be a buyer again. Don't get so antsy now to waste a pick or a top prospect on a Kiefer Sherwood if later in the year you might need that for a whoever, Cairo, a Tage Thompson, or whatever. And I just, that to me would be what I would, if I were giving Billy G advice. And it's like the Juracek trade last year. It's like, those assets they gave up are going to eventually affect you on making other trades last year or this year or whatever. And I just think that there's got to be a more look. Sherwood's having an unbelievable start to this year. He's physical. We know he's a disturber. He could probably definitely help your middle six, but it just feels like if that's going to hurt you, it depends on what you're going to give back on that, right?
I agree. I don't know that he's what this team's most glaring need is.
Yeah.
But I also think right now, when you look at what they've been dealing with here for the last
injuries,
I don't know that you can have too many depth options, even if it is just bottom six type guys. And it all depends on the price. No question about that. I agree with you on you have limited assets you can trade. And I'd probably be, especially now with what they just did in November, you have a little bit more time where you can take your time, be a little bit more patient. If November had followed the same way October had gone, it might be right now, like, I got to make the best deal I can find because I got to do something to change things right now. I don't think you're in that spot anymore. But I think we both agree that if this team is in a position to do any damage in the playoffs, what they probably need, just like everybody else in the league, is somebody on the top half of your lineup, a little bit more scoring punch. I don't know if those players will be out there to be had for what the Wild are willing to give. I really don't know what those price tags might be, but I'd be hesitant to give up major assets right now, especially for a guy that wouldn't bring help in the top two lines.
Yep. Bryce, one of my favorite people. I've met him a couple times in Winnipeg. He's I don't know if I've ever introduced you to this guy. He's the one that lives so far north in Manitoba that there's like no roads essentially. So you have to essentially fly everywhere.
Dean Evason's town, there were no roads that went north.
And I think he's north
got to
of that.
his town and they only went east or west.
Yeah.
That was Flin Flon.
Yeah. So he's asking the all-time Wild shootout lineup. That's a fun question. I mean, obviously Koivu. one has to be Zuccarello. Who'd be your third? Would it be Boldy at this point?
Probably Boldy right now. And, I mean, the Kaprizov's had a lot of success. He hasn't been as sharp lately, but I think those three, it'd be tempting to put Brian Ralston in just because it'd be fun to watch the slap shot.
You know
again.
who is unbelievable here, but I've got to double check it, is Matt Cullen. He was like 50%. If I remember correctly.
I just remember his career number not being quite as high. I don't remember what it was.
I'm telling you, he was like 50%. Remember they had the shootout specialist defenseman, Petteri Nummelen. That guy was fun. He scored like 8 or 9 goals, I think. Trying to think who else. Parisi was pretty good in those shootout situations. Pominville was pretty good. Freddie Goudreau was really good.
Yeah, but I think I'd go Koivu, Boldy, Zuccarello would be my 3.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I think Petteri Nummelen was like, if I remember, he was like 7 for 10 or 8 for 10. People could fact check me tomorrow. All right. More Twitter questions, Anthony. We'll wrap it up the show. Let's see. Here's one. Since this is Cindy goes, since Kirill Kaprizov is such a spark with Zuki, what happens when Zuki retires? How do we get other chemistry with Kirill and another player? I mean, at that point, you're hoping that you're going to have so many good players in the Wild lineup that you could even put a Boldy with them, right? I mean, you're going to be able to go out and get other free agents, make trades. I mean, Zuki's not going to play forever, as he told me a couple weeks ago.
Right. And how many more years he could play in the top 6 and play enough minutes to be Kaprizov's winger. Who knows? I think right now he certainly looks like a guy that's got another year in him, at least. And then you wonder what happens to Marco Rossi. Is it just a top line that's got Rossi, Boldy, Kaprizov together, and you use Eriksson Ek as a shutdown?
Do you worry
guy?
that Bill Guerin's thinking that since this team keeps on winning without Rossi that he is expendable again? Because I'm starting to sense that around the league. That his name has come up.
Yeah, and it depends on what the return is.
Yeah.
But the return would have to be pretty good, especially at the price. When you start to look at what so many of these other guys signed for right after Rossi signed, his deal's a tremendous contract right now at $5 million.
And as you mentioned before too, he's missed a bunch of games, and if right now he's that added offensive piece that would try to balance the scoring a little bit.
Same impact we talked about with Zuccarello.
Yeah.
Throw him in the top 6, and now Yurov's in your
third line left
6,
wing,
and
or
you've
right
got
wing.
now and he's shown a little bit more offense here over the last couple of games.
Spitballing here, this is Kyle, but what do you think about this fix to monotonous of OT? Make the red line the new blue line, maybe counterintuitive at the first glance, but may eliminate teams taking the puck all the way back to their zone. Which is kind of like the over and back thing that we talked about 3 or 4 weeks ago about, your idea was to blow it dead and you give an offensive zone draw, if you do the regroup.
I mean, it would be weird just to give the other team the puck, but I just think they've got to do something that forces a team to try to make plays. I also heard somebody say, why don't you have a shot clock? But what constitutes a shot? Does it, if you miss the net by 15 feet by slapping one into the corner, does that count? I think it's a little different than basketball where they use it that the ball has to hit the rim.
Yeah.
So I think I think there's something that can be done. I don't know what all the loopholes are that would have to be closed, but my initial thought is that I'd love to have some kind of over and back rule.
Every rule change has unintended consequences. Conan asks, LaPanta always talks about earning time, earning your position. What has Vladimir Tarasenko done to earn his position? Obviously part of it is contract, right? I mean, he's just, that's it. They're not at a point where they're going to throw him on waivers. Maybe as you said, there might come a point, but the reality is,
what Tarasenko has done is scored 300 goals in the NHL, and he does have 10 points this year. So you can say whatever you want about his game being off, but who deserves to take the spot from him? Who in your lineup takes his spot right now? Jones had 0.
Yeah.
Pitlick, 0.
No, I'm not disagreeing with
0.
You. Yeah.
I mean, that as off as Tarasenko might look, he does have 10 points this year.
Yeah.
So, and when he was out, all of those guys got opportunities. Any one of them could have grabbed that spot and run with it. And the one guy who showed a little life was Yurov, and he wound up centering the top line when opportunity presented there. So I think any one of those guys could have taken that spot from him, but none of them did.
Cameron goes, do the players pay for all their gear or do they get a fund from the team? JoJo said he goes through 20 pairs of skates a year. No, the team picks up every expense. So last night in warm-ups, when Jonas Bordin gave that kid with the Jonas Bordin sign asking for a stick, that $400 came out of Tony DeCosta's budget. So
he could just say it was broken.
Yeah, exactly. I love watching that stuff in warm-ups when all the players, do stuff like that or play like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo or whatever, rock, paper, scissors for stick. And every time I just text the equipment staff and say, another $400 down the tube.
And I don't want to sound negative about this or dismissive, but what I love is when it's a little kid just sitting there and the player comes over and greets him.
Yeah.
When it's a 6-year-old kid holding a sign that clearly was made by his parents that, hey, it's my first game. Can I have a puck or whatever they might be asking? I'll trade you this for a puck. And it's like, if it was the kid and the sign was drawn in a crayon that you could tell he made the sign himself, great. But when there's something about me that just is like, all right, come on. If the kid wants to go down there and pound on the glass and the players come by and give him a puck, good for the kid.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's like the autograph people that I think you had talked about this on the last. Yeah, with I'll make it out to whoever you make it out to Joe and I'll sign it for you. But if it's some guy that's just there to try to get an autograph he can sell, that's two different things. I'm not saying these are fans trying to sell the stick or jersey or puck or whatever they get, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, that kid was definitely excited. So Rhodes made his day. I do like that stuff. I do think because, the one thing about professional sports is just different from when I was a kid is that the players just aren't nearly as accessible for multiple reasons. One is like the Wild, they have their own practice facility. So like every now and then, if you come to practice, the players will stay and go over and sign, but you just, they leave underground at games. They leave underground. Like when I was a kid, you waited outside literally the players' entrance at Shea Stadium or West Palm Beach, stadium during spring training, and guys would come out and you get their autographs, and it's just different now. So the other thing is like, you don't usually see them out about, like, unless you're seeing them at a mall or a restaurant, you don't see them because they're scared to go out. Right. I mean, freaking, UPL the other day after a game against the Flyers goes out to a bar and it becomes like a social media story in Buffalo because he had the audacity, like breaking news, players drink after games. Oh my God. But guys are scared to do anything now because like people with their camera phones, all of a sudden it becomes like a social media thing. It's like when Anthony goes out.
Well,
all of a sudden, oh my God, there's Anthony at Kowalski's again.
I go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
But I would never go out in public.
All right. Don't you think we should end the show?
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect spot to end.
Somebody goes, if O'Reilly price came down, would you go get him and put him at wing with Eck and Boldy? But O'Reilly, I mean, he's one of the best faceoff guys ever. You're going to want him at center, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be patient right now. I know that a couple times when you've talked to Billy, I've been around for a few of them, and he's just said there's just not much happening right now, and the standings are really tight. And I think right now the Wild have put themselves in a decent spot where they can be patient.
Yeah. Just want to also send our best to Clayton Keller, who lost his dad, Brian, who I've gotten to meet a couple times, died unexpectedly in his sleep last week. The other thing is, and this has been in my head ever since I saw it. So Kevin Dineen was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which is just terrible. And a Wild fan who I always see on my Twitter account wrote back to him, wishing him well, a guy named Doug Munson, who says that he has been diagnosed with bladder cancer and had all these inspiring words for Kevin Dineen on Twitter. So just wanted to send my best to Doug Munson. Thanks to our incredible sponsors and for joining us at the Aquarius Home Services studio, live from the LaPanta household that apparently has a broken Ring doorbell. And
no, it's fixed.
Okay, it's fixed
without anybody pointing at it.
Yep, and poor Stanley feels so bad.
He's on his
Stanley.
way back. He'll be healthy by the next show.
Yeah. Aquarius Home Services, your local authorized dealer for Connecticut water treatment systems, Clamshell Beach Resorts, Onyx Maps, Twill and the Edina Galleria, Royal Credit Union, and Stretch Lab. And Anthony, have a great road trip. I won't be seeing you for a couple weeks.
It'll be very exciting in Edmonton.
By the way, I was in Chicago without you, and I realized, and I actually pointed this out to the PR staff, that I was no stress. And what was different? Yeah. You weren't there.
I had very little stress on Friday when you weren't at the Wild game.
All right, see ya.
So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world